What's up, H-Town? Welcome to the Believe in Astros podcast, your home for all things Astros. With your hosts, sports writer Jeff Balke and Astros broadcaster and former third baseman Jeff Blom. Now, here's Balke and Blummer.
What is up, Astros fans, and welcome to episode 69 of the Believe in Astros podcast on the Believe Podcasting Network. I'm Jeff Balke alongside my partner Jeff Blum, who apparently went eagle on his little golf outing yesterday, if Insta is to be believed. Special shout out to Ronnie, the limo driver from Howard Stern, for that little 69 drop. In case you didn't know, yes, we are roughly 12 years old. We're a
little moist this morning.
That's right. That's what's going on in the world.
Yes, an electric start.
It is an electric start. Blummer, how are you doing this morning?
I'm great. I am freshly shorn, and I am a true eagler. The only reason that video is there is because my good friend and teaching pro Scott House was trying to make me nervous over my eagle putt, but I drained it.
Yeah, it was a pretty good. It was about 20 feet.
Pretty good. It was a good one. Yeah,
pretty good putt. I mean, it wasn't any. It didn't appear to be any undulating greens or anything, but nevertheless, 20. That's not bad.
Yeah, you couldn't see. It was a little right to left, maybe about two cups out to the right, but just slammed it home right in front of Steve Sparks and all my friends.
Sparky was there. That's even better.
Yeah,
that's even better when you can pop one in front of that guy or anybody for that matter.
Yeah. He's really good, and that was the highlight of my day on the first hole. Yes, no, Sparky's really good.
How did you finish?
Oh, I usually finish in the mid to high 80s. Yeah, that's my standard operating procedure. Even eagling, I was 2 under for the first 2 holes. After that, it was a yard sale.
Nice. All right. Well, I do appreciate the freshly shorn. I have not gotten my haircut yet, so the cap will remain on. But next week I will be seeing my boy Tom.
There we go.
To get the old razors happening. You can find us on Spotify, Apple, Stitcher, and of course on YouTube. Be sure to like and subscribe to keep up with us. Give us a follow on Twitter and on Instagram at Believe in Astros. You can find me at Jeff Balke and Blummer at Blummer27 all over the place. Thanks to everyone who gives us 5 stars and left us reviews on Apple. You guys are awesome. If you haven't, go over there and do that immediately. Obviously, send us your comments and questions. We love getting all those and read them. For example, yesterday I was at Dick's Sporting Goods on Post Oak, and a lovely woman named Megan approached me and said, "Are you Jeff Balke?"
What?
And I was like, I am the Jeff. I said,
"Yeah, you are."
I said, "Yeah," and she said, "I'm a huge fan of the podcast," which I know. I know, dude. It's like I'm like Blummer all of a sudden.
Careful.
And she was so shout out Megan. Thank you for stopping and saying hello. And we chatted for a minute in the parking lot. And she had a question for you, and I think it's a good one. So we're gonna. I want to address that before we even get to anything else, since she was so nice to come up and say hello. She said she was asking about when Jose Altuve was injured in the WBC, got hit by a pitch on his thumb, and she asked, when guys get hurt and another person is in some way responsible, or if not responsible, at least involved. Do they reach out? Is it normal for them to reach out and say, "Hey man, sorry," or is how does that work? Does anybody do that? Because when she asked me that question, honestly didn't know, and I figured you would. So let's find out.
Is it normal? No. But it does happen. Yeah. I mean, more often than not, that it'll just kind of go, "Hey man, oh well," and you continue to move on. But if it's something drastic or unintentional, it's not guilt, but it's a little, it's like, "Hey man, I'm sorry that happened." The nature of the game takes care of itself sometimes, and you can't control that. But there are guys out there with a conscience who will come over and go, "Hey, that pitch got away. I'm sorry I slid so hard." Unintended consequences, but if few and far between when it happens. So guys usually just kind of go, "Hey, guy got hurt," and you move on. At least more often than not, the thought is, at least it wasn't me.
Well, man, you are playing for a paycheck.
Yep.
So you better get it while you can. Speaking of Jose Altuve, he returned last night 0 for 4 with a walk. Going to take Altuve a little bit of time to get in the groove. He's a bit of a slow starter, but just really good to see him back. I mean, the crowd noise. I was actually out right at the beginning of the game, so I flipped on the radio to hear Sparky and Robert Ford, and the crowd sounded pretty awesome. So, I mean, what was it like in the building?
It was fantastic, and that guy brings a certain energy to the ball game. He's short in stature compared to a lot of athletes, but what he brings as far as heart and talent is beyond a lot of guys in the big league. So even though he didn't get any hits, had a rough night, double play, things like that. It's just the energy and not the expectation, but the anticipation of what he can do is what brings a lot of that energy to the ballpark. And I know that we can't see it necessarily, but what he brings to that clubhouse is something that we can't quantify. You can't put it into a computer. There's no algorithm for it. And I think that just having him around is a little soothing and exciting at the same time in that clubhouse. So you're right about him being a slow starter. And when he gets his feet under him, his legs under him, watch out, man. This offense is going to go.
Well, he's one of those guys, too, who once he gets going, it's trouble. Like he'll just reel off. Like he'll have a 350 month or something. He'll reel off 5 or 6 homers in a short period of time. He's just that's who he is. So yeah, everybody need to be patient with him, which is harder with Mauricio Dubon being as good as he has been. Obviously, he's going to go back to his utility role, but as someone pointed out, I think one of your buddies and one of my buddies, Adam Wexler, pointed out yesterday on the pregame is that he did play 70 plus games at third base in San Francisco. So, right now, as we talked about last time, Alex Bregman doesn't have anybody to really back him up, especially since they sent David Hensley down. So might we see a few third base appearances by Dubon, just if nothing else, just to give Breggy a rest?
Well, he's going to have to. He's the only utility infielder on this ball club right now, with David Hensley being sent out and going back to Sugarland. So, Mauricio Dubon's going to have that responsibility of backing up both Jeremy Pena and Alex Bregman at third base. We've seen Yainer Diaz at first base. I would imagine here in the next week or so, just as a precautionary issue, that he is going to go over there and take ground balls at first base and kind of see what the angles look like at first base and some of the responsibilities just in case, because he has to fill those positions across the infield. Right. And don't be surprised if he plays a little left field and gives Yordan those DH days and puts Corey Julks on that bench as a weapon late in games. I think that might be interesting to see him in left field. And then I also think it's very interesting, how that lineup could shape out. Jose Altuve is going to be leading off, but do you put Dubon in that 2 hole and bump Alex, everybody down one notch and put Alex back in that 3 spot? Or do you put Dubon in that number 9 spot, have him be your second quote unquote leadoff guy and put Jeremy Pena back in that 2 hole? I don't know. I mean, there's so many options now that Altuve's back.
Well, I'm kind of fascinated with the idea of Dubon in the 9. I mean, it is like, other than the first inning, the 9 hitters can be a spark plug for the top of that lineup. And I would be very interested to see him in that 9 hole, especially if it was on a day where Yainer was catching. And you could see him, in that 9 spot. I agree with you. I think he is going to play a little left field. I wouldn't be surprised if he spelled Kyle Tucker. And played some right play. I mean, Chas McCormick is probably the more logical replacement for Kyle there. But it wouldn't shock me to see him do a little bit of that. I think the biggest thing is now we're seeing getting back into our regular, lineup of players. We're getting with the bench there and all of that. It just feels more like now we're going to get into more of what we expected from the Astros to start the season. No, and that's you want some of that normalcy coming back. I know that Michael Brantley has had his setbacks, and there's some question marks about his return. But at the same time, just getting Altuve back kind of solidifies and does bring some of that normalcy back. And then you've got some options for Dusty as far as the rest of the lineup goes. Absolutely. So let's talk a little bit about the streak. 5 straight, 7 of the last 8. And as Blumstradamus predicted. The hitting is returned. It's contagious, as you yourself said. How do you do it, man? How do you make these? I mean, I'm surprised you're not like doing like the old Johnny Carson bit and putting on
Swami hat on,
the Karnak, the magnificent, putting the envelope up to your head.
Yep.
And we're talking about old stuff. That there are going to be people like, who's Carson? Is he
there's going to be a certain
player?
Demographic in our group that's going to go, who the hell?
It's Johnny Carson. Look it up. That's why I got him in Google. Anyway, so we've got this little bit of a streak going here. What do you see in what's going on, especially with the bats? I mean, we know it was been happening with pitchers, but it's been pretty. I mean, they've really, the Astros have, from a bat perspective, they look more like the Astros we expect them to look like.
No, and that's why I can be as prognosticatish as I have been because of the past. You kind of rely on history to give you an idea of what the future might look like, and yes, the Astros are getting older, a little longer in the tooth, but at the same time, these guys are still very good hitters. And I do believe that there is a certain mentality in that clubhouse for the Houston Astros that says, you know what? Like we saw in that walk-off win against the Chicago Cubs, Yordan Alvarez did not have a good game. He's human, but we didn't have to panic because the guy behind him picked him up. And I think that's the mentality of this Astros lineup is, if I don't get it done, the guy behind me might get it done. And if I have to take my walk, I'm going to take my walk and see what the next guy can do. It's this communal attitude that these guys have towards winning and getting hits and playing the game. It's any given night, one of these guys can be the superstar, they can be the hero. And in order for those guys to be the hero, you need guys in front of you to take the walk, to get the tough base hit, to move those runners along and create traffic so that you can drive in that game-winning run and have an impact on that game. And so that's where I think the Astros are a little bit different, where you can see some individualistic ball clubs like the Chicago Cubs, like the Oakland A's, that are out there just fighting for their own numbers, not worrying about who's winning or who's losing that game. And that's what makes the Astros a championship ball club. They've got a mentality in that clubhouse that buys all in, all together, and that's why they're able to go out there and be successful and create that contagion that filters through that entire batting lineup.
Absolutely. And let's talk a little bit about that comeback, because that was something. I mean, first of all, let's even going back to before that. On Tuesday, we had Chas McCormick make the play of the season.
Dear God, that was amazing. Yeah.
It's so funny. I was at that game, and the Jackson Gorman, who's photographer for the press, he was shooting the whole Cubs series. And right after the game, he texted me with his photos of that catch, and it was literally just the backside of the Cubs third base coach. And underneath it, all it said was, "Are you freaking kidding me?" That's all. That's all it said. But he made he just keeps making these insane catches, right? Just unbelievable. And congrats to the Chronicle photographer who actually got the shot.
Karen Miller, I think.
Yeah. Just amazing photos. Just as someone who's been shooting with a camera since he was old enough to hold one, I can tell you that is impressive to get that shot.
Yeah. I still, there's so many pictures throughout the chronicles of sports that we amaze ourselves at, because you watch it in real time, you replay it in your mind, you watch the sports centers, you watch the, the highlight reels, and then you catch the still photos and you're going, oh my gosh,
especially
look at how far off the ground. Yeah. How far off the ground, how close was that to the wall? How unbelievable was that catch? And then you stop it in real time and actually drink it in. And that's where you're like, damn, that was an unbelievable catch. And I love the fact that we have StatCast and all these numbers now that say catch probabilities. In the moment, it's a 90% catch probability, but they don't take the wall into account. Right. The following day, you look up that same play, and it goes from a 90% catch probability to a 65% catch probability. And that's what I love, is that you can kind of quantify and put a number to it and see what's going on. But that was truly an amazing play. It's one of the more hyper athletic plays, is to be able to run that far, put yourself in a position to get that far off the ground, and then throw the glove up there. And that still photos, the glove's up, the head's down, because he was anticipating where that ball would be, and he snatched it out of midair. That was unbelievable.
It is unreal, and it's funny too, because if you go to the Believe in Astros Instagram, you'll see his comments after the game talking about how, and Dusty's only comment was, "You got to throw the ball back in. We could have gotten a double play." It's a classic,
dude. Dusty, let the guy have his glory, man.
I know, it was unbelievable.
He wasn't going to double the guy off.
I know, but come on, Dusty's going to be Dusty, man. That's how it is.
Yeah.
But like the comeback though on Wednesday, I mean, to me that felt like, and you correct me if you think I'm wrong, but that felt like a turning point in the season. Like that felt like a shift in like, okay, enough fooling around with this. It just, to me, it felt like they turned on a switch that we've seen from this team for years. And that was the first time I feel like we've seen that really this year.
Yeah, this is, and it's a moment in this schedule where you need to take advantage of the Chicago Cubs, the Oakland A's, and games like this. But for the first 7 innings, it was about the mid-6th that I leaned over to TK, and I'm like, man, are we just sleepwalking through this game? We're just mailing it in, saying, well, we took 2 out of 3 in the series. Right. And then all of a sudden, the 8th inning happens where you pick up 2 runs, and you're like, we're kind of in striking distance, this, and the part of the lineup that's coming up, you're like, well, if they turn the lineup over, you get to Jordan and Alex Bregman, and some good things can happen. And that's exactly what happened, because you bring in Keegan Thompson for the Cubs, a walk and a blast. And that's exactly what happened with nobody out. Jake Myers, I think Jake Myers' home run might have like electrified that dugout, because all of a sudden everybody went, we're only 1 run back and we have the top of our lineup coming up. And all of a sudden, like I said earlier, a walk, a blue pit, reach on an error, somehow get on base and just bring the winning run to home plate or get the winning run on base. And that's exactly what happened and gave Kyle Tucker the opportunity to come back and win that game. But you could see the excitement after the game. They felt like that was a big game for them too. Yeah,
I think they really did. And it was really fun to sort of see. It was funny because I had tuned away from it for just a little bit. In the 7th inning.
Can't blame you.
Yeah, well, right. And it wasn't really for that. It was my wife and I were watching a show before she gets up so early. Sometimes she goes to bed earlier than I do. I figured I'll just rewind it and watch it on the DVR when we're done. And my buddy Frank just texted me, "Holy shit." And I was like, I guess something happened. I better go look.
Got to tune in.
Yeah, exactly. And so, that's I always know that something happens in the Astros game when one of a couple of different people will send me a text. And I'm like, okay, clearly something is going on. So, and you just said it, Blummer, too. This is, we talked about how they need to feast on this schedule. Like they're coming up. They're going to have a couple of tough outings coming up. They've got the Brewers coming up, and it's another road trip. They have to feast on these guys. I mean, Oakland is one of the worst teams ever. And so let's just go ahead and literally. And I don't want to bury the Oakland A's too much, but we put up a stat the other day. There are teams with the only teams that we could find with similar numbers or worse numbers, believe it or not, in Major League Baseball history was in the 1800s. Yes. In fact, I just saw this on Astros Country. God bless him. He's brought back post-game hot links, which is one of the coolest things you'll ever go to. And he said Oakland is 10-36. It says now the worst record in Major League history belongs to the 1899 Cleveland Spiders, who went 20-134. Good God. They finished their season 84 games back. And they said Jim Hewley, statistically the Spiders' best pitcher, had a 4-30 record. Oh my gosh. How do you recover from that? I don't know. And they, in the modern era, quote unquote, the 1916 Philly Athletics went 36-117 3 years after they won the World Series. Oh, dang. Fire sale. I mean, but that's how historically bad this Oakland A's team is. So if you're the Astros, you have to go out there and just waylay them, make up some ground in the division, get your guys healthy and back. Stats, get your numbers, boys. Exactly. Get on those. Figure out where in your contract that says if you have X number of this or X number of that. Start reading that contract. Get the details. Because now is the time. Absolutely. Especially 3 lefties. Who throws 3 lefty starters in a series? I mean, a team that's desperate. Ugh. Good Lord.
I mean,
and you don't want
it's okay to have the lefties in your rotation, but split them up.
You don't want to throw them against this lineup. Are you kidding me?
Oh, man, yeah.
They're
this heavy right-handed lineup.
And never mind the heavy right-handed lineup. You got two of the best left-handed hitting lefties in baseball.
The two best, yeah.
Yeah.
Left on left, they don't give a damn. They're like, bring it. Who cares? I'm going to get my knocks.
It's you know what it is, Blomer?
Borderline orgasmic.
That's what it is. That's
we are in that moment on episode 69, right. Shall we say?
Exactly. On episode 69. We are in that. That is exactly right.
We know this.
So, all right. So I thought this would be kind of fun on a weekly basis to do a little section on props and drops, like guys that are really deserve some props and some guys who maybe have struggled a little bit. We'll start with the props. And this is one, I don't think this guy gets enough praise this season, is Hector Neris. Like, he flies so under the radar in that bullpen. He's got a 1.4 ERA in 19 and a third innings and an 8.79 whip. But in his last 5 games, no runs, 1 hit, 3 walks. Like, this is a guy who I think just gets overlooked a lot, and he has been spectacular.
His nickname should be Everyday Hector.
Yes.
We noticed this last season. Sitting in the booth, it was about this point in the season too, where he had like 20 appearances, and TK and I are kind of looking at each other and we're like, damn, Hector Neris is coming in again. And Dusty keeps calling down there, and he keeps picking up the phone and grabbing the baseball. And you need guys like that in your bullpen that are just relentless. They're just like, oh, you want me to throw? I'll throw. Give me the ball.
Right.
And I think that's where Hector Neris kind of flies under the radar, is that you see him frequently, but you see him from the 6th inning to the 9th inning. Mm-hmm. And he's got close to, I want to say he's got 85, 87 career saves, so he did some serious late inning lifting for the Philadelphia Phillies.
Right.
So if Presley has the night off and Montero can't go, or somebody, give the ball to Hector Neris, man. The guy doesn't have the electric stuff of a Stanek or the spin of a Presley, but he goes out there. The dude pitches. He's got some movement, little late tail on that fastball. Mm-hmm. His split finger has been ridiculous here in the last couple of outings. He's got a great feel for that pitch, and that's what makes him good, is that he has pitches to get right-handed hitters out, but he also has plenty to get left-handed hitters out, and that's why he's so valuable and maybe a little overlooked, because he comes in and you're like, oh, Hector Neris is in. We'll see what we do in the bottom of this inning, because he's going to shut down the A's in this inning. He's really good.
He's like an offensive lineman in football. You don't really think about him until a penalty's called. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Until you show the slow motion replay and he's pulling to the outside, leading the way, and you're like,
pancaking guys. Again. He's just been really impressive this year in a bullpen that is exceptional, right?
They're pitching World Series like in the last 2 weeks.
It's incredible. I mean, Phil Maton, again, the serial killer.
Damn, dude.
He's just
silent assassin.
17 of 19 outings with a big fat 0. Like, that's unbelievable. All right, another prop we should give out is to Jake Myers. Look, dude. Jake Myers looks more and more like 2021 Jake Myers. He's obviously been hitting better, but he's, according to Baseball Savant, he's in the 90th percentile in outs above average in the outfield.
Isn't that crazy?
His defense is elite in the outfield. And we were worried. Remember, we were so worried because we were worried his arm strength wasn't going to come back. And it's clearly back.
His metrics are unbelievable. You could get seriously lost in Baseball Savant, by the way.
No, for sure.
So if you're a nerd and you want to see some of these numbers, just start clicking on things, because you're going to find numbers that you never thought. But what's great is I could sit in the booth behind home plate and I can watch some of the jumps. You can watch the closing speed. You can see the angles he's taking. And Savant will actually give you numbers to back that up and quantify what he's actually doing. And that's how they come up with these outs above average or defensive runs saved. We always talk about DRSs. And Jake Myers fills those voids, but he makes it look easy. He looks like he's about 15 years old, and he can flat out fly. I think that's what we kind of discount during the course of the game, is a dude can flat out get it with the legs, and he can close speed. He plays great defensively, but I still think this is one of those things that we were anticipating or waiting for over the last couple of years. Is can he come back from that injury? And I think he's over that mental hurdle of hurting himself or protecting that arm a little bit. And now he's playing a little more freer, and we're getting a chance to see what he can do.
It felt like too, a little bit like he was overstraining himself. Like he was really pressing, and as we all know from watching sports, or in your case, actually playing them, when you do that, it gets in your head and you really struggle. It's just like a guy in basketball who misses a bunch of shots in a row, after a little bit, you're like, shit, I'm not going to make anything today, am I? And it gets in your head, and you start changing what you do. And I feel like Meyer, he's talked about how he's, changed his mechanics a little bit, and he's, worked with hitting coaches. But I'll tell you, defensively, the guy is just so impressive. And I mean, it's remarkable too, considering how good Chas McCormick is.
They've got luxury items out there now.
Yeah, when it comes to defense, I mean, there a need to be. I mean, if you bring in a late inning defensive replacement in center field, it's purely because one guy's tired. It has nothing to do with anything other than that, because they're both really, really high end. One more props to give, and that's to Drew Gilbert, who moved up to Double-A Corpus Christi. The kid is probably going to be in Sugarland in a month or two. I mean, did you see what Jose Altuve?
Keep an eye on that. Keep an eye on him.
Did you see what Jose Altuve said about him? He's like he's big league ready. He said he has a beautiful swing. Like, he
was stroking him,
and I mean he's diminutive, like Altuve is 5'9", but the guy is I'm trying to think of, there's a term that they used to use in football, but he's a bulldog on the field, right? I mean, he will literally run through a wall, as we saw what happened last year. He's great defensively, like plus defensively in the outfield. And he's got easy home run power. Like, his swing is like that. He's coming fast. Like, if you have a chance to go down to Corpus and catch a Hooks game, which I'm going to do, you got to go, because he's going to be up here sooner than we think.
And that's kind of the crazy thought. And then you say, wow, this guy's moving quickly through the system. You got to remember, college guy.
Yeah.
And he went to Tennessee, right?
I believe that's correct. Yes.
So you're playing in the SEC, and I played in the Pac-10 it was actually the 6-pack back in my day. It was a 6-pack. We didn't have what?
Okay, boomer.
Yes, I am, I guess, but not by choice.
No, we're Gen Xers, buddy.
Yeah. So let's be serious.
Yeah.
But they compared the college game to a Double-A style baseball, or at least level of talent, and I think that's where some of these college guys, you can push them a little bit. But Drew Gilbert, if he wasn't injured, who knows? He might have started in Double-A this season.
Right.
So he was kind of backed up with the injuries he had in the last couple of years. Now he's getting the chance to be promoted and really expose how good he is. And I think the Astros are doing a good thing in saying, let's see what he can do. See if he can adjust. Where is he at? And now you're starting to see that measuring stick a little bit. Okay, he's at Double-A doing a good job, making plays. He's an impact type guy. And I think you're right. He may get bumped up. If he's in AAA by the All-Star break, I think your ears should kind of turn up a little bit like they are now. You're kind of like, why is he moving so fast? And I think that's the question you ask afterwards, is like, why is this guy moving so fast? What is the plan for him? Yeah. And it kind of leads into that trade deadline. Are there going to be some guys exposed that you're going to go out there and get some pitching, or maybe another infielder? I don't know, but there's going to be opportunities maybe for Drew Gilbert to move up a little bit quickly. And just as a comp for a guy like Drew Gilbert, Lenny Dykstra.
Oh, Lenny. Well, let's hope only on the field.
Yes. No, I'm speaking purely as a player. Just that kind of compact powerhouse that a Lenny Dykstra can bring, and that excitement, maybe a little player comp, not personality comp. I don't think we want to compare anybody to that personality.
Because listen, speaking of Howard Stern, if you ever want to hear some Lenny Dykstra that you really don't want to know about, listen to some of the interviews he's done on there, because the man has issues. I'm just going to say that. It's appropriate that we're talking about Lenny Dykstra on episode 69, just saying.
Yeah.
But yeah, I agree with you in terms of his size, in terms of that compact power that he has. And look, man, he's got speed too, which is he's got a lot of things to offer, which is it's no wonder he's moving up quickly. Look, the Astros take a lot of SEC guys, right?
Yeah, there's a reason for that.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Because they're prepared. All right, a few guys who've dropped. David Hensley, option to Sugarland. He only had 8 hits and like 83 at bats, I think. You know, Hensley needs time to hit. I think it's good for him to be back in Sugarland. He needs to get, you know, a bunch of at bats per week. He's a hitter, right? That's his deal. He's a decent fielder.
That's his primary use. Yes.
His primary use is he's a hitter. He's a big guy, you know, who can hit with power, but
command the zone.
He's got fantastic strike zone discipline. One of the, honestly, really within the organization, one of the better strike zone discipline guys, but he's just got to get more time at the plate, right?
Yeah, he's got to figure himself out because he burst onto the scene last season with that strike zone command, the ability to hit the ball the other way, had some pop in there in that big old frame of 6'6", but something went awry. And I'm not sure what it is, if it's mentality, if it's mechanical, but he needs some more seasoning, and hopefully he sees it that way too. Instead of a complete demotion and something entirely negative, he needs to understand that this is an opportunity for him to get right and force the issue again by swinging the bat well. Yeah,
he seems stiff to me. Like he just seemed like he was
that's mechanical rigidity.
Yeah, he just didn't look right. He just hadn't looked right up there. Second one on our drops, JP France. So had a tough outing Wednesday, only went 3 2/3, gave up 6 earned runs. Dusty Baker made the comment that he had a cutter that didn't cut. And this is the kind of thing that happens. Gave up a couple of home runs. This just feels like a blip to me because it was not. He does have good stuff, but he just did not have good stuff that night. And, you know, when you have a ball that cuts right over the heart of the plate, it's trouble.
Oh, man. Well, that was the problem. You can, you know, and we always hear the term, you know, he was unable to locate. He's wild. You know, he's not hitting his spots, and everybody assumes that's, he's going to have 5 walks in the game. You can be wild over the middle of the part of the plate, and that's where JP France was wild over the middle of the part of the plate. Mistakes were being made. They were being hit hard, and that's how big leaguers make their money, is off of mistake pitches, not nasty pitches as far as hitters are concerned. And unfortunately, JP France got taken advantage of. My question is, you know, if we can get 2 out of 3 good starts from JP France moving forward, I'm in.
Yeah, same thing with Brandon Bielak. I mean, that's the goal. Really, is just trying to get solid. I mean, you're not expecting, and in both cases, both guys are 5. You know, they're 5th in the rotation. It's just right now one of them has to be 4th because you're mid. And Jose Urquidy is supposed to start throwing next week, thankfully.
Yeah, that was actually good news on Urquidy, to be honest.
I thought so too, and you've got Lance is already throwing bullpen sessions as well. So hopefully we'll get one of those guys back in the next few weeks. But you know, these guys are number 5 in your rotation, and nobody expects number 5 in your rotation to be giving you, you know, 6-7 innings of, you know, shutout ball every time they take the mound. So the goal is to try and, you know, mitigate your losses. Maybe get to that bullpen early if you need to, and then hopefully give him some run support. So, yeah, I feel like France is look, he's fun for the club too. I just think he's a good story, you know, and I hope he can keep it going. I fear he's going to have to go back down though when one of the starters returns, because I don't think you're going to send Bielak down. We'll see.
Yeah, you'll see.
We'll see. Last guy drops, and this is not his fault. Luis Garcia had his surgery yesterday, Tommy John surgery. He's going to miss all of this year, probably a chunk of next year. Truth be told, he probably won't be back to normal Luis Garcia until 2025, which feels like a really long time because, well, quite frankly, it is. And these are the kind of things that we have to deal with injuries. It's just a huge bummer because, I mean, it just is. It sucks, but, you know. Here we are. No,
he's good. He's a piece of your rotation, and anytime you lose a piece of your rotation for at least a year and a half, that's the frustrating part about it. So, you know, maybe it's September of next season. I'm not sure how it's going to go, but all you can do is just kind of, you know, hope the surgery went successfully, and hopefully the rehab goes extremely well. I know the Astros have a very good training staff and medical staff that's going to take care of him, and just be patient if you're Luis Garcia. Be patient if you're a fan. He will be back. At what shape or form, we have no idea, because these things are kind of tenuous when you're dealing with Tommy John surgery. But a lot of guys come back and they're successful afterwards, so there's hope.
That's right. And last thing before we go, teams have been doing. There's been a lot of teams doing coordinated home run celebrations this year. Astros are not one of them as of yet. Blummer, I'm curious. Are you in or out on the coordinated home run celebration?
I'm in. Some of them have gotten ridiculous with the props. You know, I don't think that you need to go that far, but I you know, the Boston Red Sox, you know, throwing guys in a laundry bin, carting them around is kind of funny. You know, I think the Trident helmet thing in Seattle is a little much for me. You know, I like the sport coat in Toronto. I think that's kind of cool. But let's not forget, the Astros started this. It started with the Bregman stare.
With the stare.
It started with the bobsled in Boston when they did that as a coordinated. So I think the Astros are kind of like, yeah, that's cool, guys. We did that. We don't need to do it anymore. So they've kind of set the tone early. I think they're kind of past that, and they're trying to reinvent what they're actually going to do. But I do appreciate that it happens in the dugout, because it's a team thing, and it's not, you know, bat flipping and pointing at the pitcher, you know, so it's a little more respectful in the sense that you're doing it in your own dugout with your own team and doing it for the TV camera for the fans at home. I love it.
The best celebrations in any sport are the ones that are done for the purposes of celebrating, not for the purposes of taunting. Always.
Yes, 100%.
It's always. I mean, it doesn't matter what sport you're in. Taunting makes you look kind of like a jackass.
Petty.
Yeah, like kind of stupid. Like, I get it if you dunk on somebody and maybe you want to stare at them a little bit. I understand, you know, I understand if you don't know, you better ask somebody. I get it. I'm with you, because I've been there. I've been dunked on before, and I get it. It's cool if it's playful and fun or whatever. But honestly, when you're having a team celebration, I'm with you. I'm in on those. I kind of like the Trident, although it is weird that they
like the Trident. I don't like the helmet and everything that goes with it. Just take the Trident, walk down the end of the dugout,
the Trident
raise it in glory, and then move on.
The Trident is funny because I read a story about how they have to break it down to take it with them on the road. It has to go through, like, it has to be in a checked bag. Like, there's all these it's like really pretty funny. I do think that teams will have to be careful to not be stupid, right? You know, you got to be.
There is a limit.
There is a limit. Guys need to be clever. It needs to be clever. If it's clever
is key.
Yeah, being clever is key, because if it's not clever, then it just seems stupid. And you don't
seems
want
like you're trying too hard. You don't want to be like trying too hard.
As this guy I used to know, a musician I used to play with, he would say, "You think you're funny, but the joke's on you." Yeah, you don't want that. Nobody wants that.
Nobody wants to be the punchline.
No. All right. Thanks for joining us today, Ray Blummer. Any final thoughts? I know you early game today, 3:00 start.
Man, 3:00 starts are weird, man.
I will be listening on the radio from the beach. Thank you very much.
Shut up. All right. That's enough.
That's right. I'm going to be hanging out at the beach. We're going to visit a good friend of ours in Galveston who is awesome. She and her husband are huge Astros fans, and she is one of the toughest people I know. She's a cancer survivor and still fighter. And,
God bless her. Yeah.
Very, very impressive people. So going down there and hang at the beach. What about, so Blummer, what do you got going this weekend besides the Astros? You getting another tea time in some point?
Are you kidding me? No, hell no, not this week. Just so fans know, well, the team's going on the road and they will be in Milwaukee Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. I will not be on on those broadcasts. Jeff Bagwell will be.
Okay.
And the reason for that is because this is graduation week coming up for me.
Oh my God, I forgot.
I have 3 seniors who are all graduating on Wednesday, the 24th from Seven Lakes High School. And it's going to be emotional. It's going to be exciting. And it's going to be a little crazy because we got family and friends coming into town for the graduation parties and the graduation day. I will join the team in Oakland for that Oakland series. Oh, lucky me. Getting to go to the Coliseum with all of my, 1,500, closest friends. But yeah, it's a big week in the Blum household.
Blummer, congratulations to your daughters. That is fantastic. The high school graduations, and now Now comes the college bill.
Yeah, the college tuition bills. Yeah,
it comes due. I mean, you already have one there. Now you're going to have 3 more. I can't believe you're going to have 3 at Arkansas and then 1 outlier at LSU. That's
Isn't
incredible.
that crazy? Who would have thought? We moved from California in 2017 to Texas, and now I've got 4 Southern girls. They love it down here.
That is so good. That is so excellent. All right, guys. Thanks so much we'll be back on Tuesday next week. Megan, the person I met she also had another good question. She said, how do we know when you guys are going to be on? So actually there is a bit of a formula. We always do mornings. It's typically Tuesday or Wednesday and Friday or Saturday during a week that we do 2. So we do 2 one week, 1 the next, 6 a month. And then usually Tuesday or Wednesday the next week. And here's how you can figure it out. If there is a day game on the Tuesday or Friday, we will likely not be broadcasting that day because, well, Blummer has to prepare. He's got to drink his energy drink. Yeah. Well, that was yesterday was your tea time. That's what happened yesterday. Somebody had to go get himself an eagle.
Oh man, yeah, I played well.
Yeah, I mean, hey, you were 2 under, which means you're after 2, which means you managed par on the first hole. I can do math.
Yep. Yeah.
But so that's normally how we figure it out. Is if there's a day game, we're not going to be doing it that day because Blummer's got to he's got to get in the gym. He's got to take some BP.
True.
When's the last time you took BP, Blummer?
Oh man, might have been that 2019 season when we actually did the home run derby back in the day.
Nice. You should get out there one day. Let him throw you a few. Just see what.
Oh, I went to Home Run Dugout earlier in the year.
There you go.
Dugout out here in Katy. Man, I was taking some behemoth hacks out there. Yeah, man. And I recommend it for everybody too.
Dude,
it's
for
gorgeous.
Sure. Speaking of which, you could get out there and do it now because you don't have to wear a tie anymore.
Thank God.
It's so funny. We were chatting about this the other day. Ties suck. Yes. I don't care what you think. Ties are stupid. And I'm with you. I thought it was important to point out that if you see any photo of Blummer in a tie, it was prior to this year.
Yes, that's 100% right. Yeah.
Chronologically,
you can figure it out.
It's pretty good to know. All right. So everybody, thank you again for joining us. Really appreciate everybody's participation. Huge thanks to all the listeners and viewers across the world. Not sure there's going to be YouTube up today since I will be getting on the road here in just a little bit.
Get to the beach, man.
But I will have that up this weekend. Thank you for liking and subscribing and commenting. Thank you, Megan, again for saying hello and shout out. Keep on sending us that stuff. We're very thankful to have you all guys paying attention and listening. Keep it coming. Have a great weekend, everybody. I'll be at the beach. Blummer will be at the game. I'm just rubbing that in because yesterday he was out on the golf course while I was working my butt off.
I earned it.
As always, thanks, guys. Go Astros.